Glad to see Tara's comfy. She deserves it. You and the baby both.
Mm-hmm.
We're on. We're back. Been a minute.
Absolutely.
Been a minute.
28.
Only a little. Is this 28? 27. I know. That's why I put a question mark in the calendar. I was like, 28? I'm Ron Burgundy. Noah. Tomorrow's Noah's birthday.
How old will you be?
23? Question mark? I'm 23. Not a lot's changed since our last, what we're going to refer to in Copy PPD's podcast, a home team podcast. Not a lot's really changed, right?
Yeah.
You're only pregnant.
More of the same.
Not you, but your wife.
Yeah, I was going to say, well.
Yeah. You and your wife are pregnant.
Me. She's doing all the work.
Cat's out of the bag.
Cat's out of the bag, yeah. Expecting a baby.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tara's in the room, and you can't see her, but Tara's also pregnant. She's very comfy right now. Half of our team's pregnant.
Yeah.
So my wife's pregnant. We got babies coming. Everyone's having children.
Everyone. I don't know who's disclosed that they're pregnant and not, so I don't want to shout out too many people, but they're pregnant, dude.
Noah might have a kid. We don't know. He doesn't. Sorry,
don't
Bella.
Put that on me.
Bella's not. No. A lot's changed, though. I mean, really, like all the babies coming in the team. Congrats to you guys. Tara,
thank you.
Congrats to you. And then what else? What else has happened? I was thinking there's some other stuff that's changed, but all good things. Oh, Virginia's on the team. We got a new transaction coordinator. Right?
Yep, phenomenal.
Right,
she's doing great.
She's doing good. All good things.
Mm-hmm.
All good things, as Olaf says. So let's get this rolling, man. We got a couple stories to go through today we want to talk about, in relation to some stuff happening in the region, also some stuff just overall market trends, talking about some interest rate stuff, the fun, boring financial side of things. And then we'll start with, we've got 4 different topics we want to talk on today. Journeyman Distillery coming to the Valpo and what's going on there. That's huge development for Northwest Indiana. Refuge Coffee, which is a new coffee shop here in Crown Point. I want to shout them out and their new business. They just had their grand opening yesterday with the city of Crown Point. Crown Point redistricting of schools, very big conversation, very big topic in what's going on here in Crown Point School District. And then interest rates, what's going on with interest rates, recent Fed hike. So we're going to talk about those things and talk about the market and what we're seeing here in Northwest Indiana. Our next podcast, either one of our next 1 or 2, is going to be on in relation to the real estate market update. So we'll do a pod that's just solely based on real estate market update. Speaking of Refuge, shout out to them for the coffee today.
Yeah.
This is from Refuge Coffee today. So thank you to Ho Tom, the owner, and his family. Appreciate them, and it's good stuff. So if you haven't been, go. But we'll talk more about that. We are going to start off with Journeyman Distillery in Valparaiso. A lot of good things, as always, going on in Valpo. One of the biggest things, arguably, if not probably the biggest, is what's going on with Journeyman Distillery. Journeyman Distillery, if you're not familiar with Journeyman, they're based out of Three Oaks, Michigan, opened in 2011. And they have been working on the old. Mitch, you got a little bit more understanding of that building.
Yeah.
But that building, it was that building right off of South Campbell Street, right, right off 30 and close to downtown. 140,000 square foot facility that they have taken over, and they've been working on now, I think, for at least a year. I want to say it's been over a year.
Yeah.
But something like that, bringing that to the area is huge. I just want to give an update on that, kind of talk about what it is that they're doing. We're actually blessed. Our company, Realty Executives Premier, is going to be hosting one of the first corporate events there when they open up. So we've already booked that, which is going to be really cool to experience. But just want to talk a little bit about that. So Journeyman Distillery breaking ground in Valpo. Obviously, this is an older story, but just an update on where they're at. So historic restoration. This is a findthefunpanorama.com.
Yeah.
Find the fun with panoramanow.com story. Journeyman Distillery, breaks ground in Valparaiso, Indiana. Historic restoration project in Valparaiso, Indiana by Journeyman Distillery transforms an abandoned Anco factory, into a 140,000 square foot destination facility. American Fare restaurant, steakhouse, karaoke, the distillery, the brewery, whiskey garden, and event spaces will be repurposed. Site is in South Campbell Street and dates to one of the first woolen mills in Porter County, right? Established just after the Civil War. So when was this building built, Mitch? Did it say? In the 1800s sometime?
It said in the 1800s.
In the 1800s. If you've driven by this building or seen pictures of it, it's going to be sick. Like, it's gonna be sick what they're doing with it. I mean, if I've personally never been to Journeyman, but you have, right, Mitch? You've been there before out in Three Oaks.
Three Oaks, yeah. I went up there for a wedding, and it was just like an awesome building, kind of older building. I'm not sure, if that one was from the 1800s or not, but very similar, like on brand to what they're doing in Valpo. It was just an incredible space and like great atmosphere all around, like really quality product, and to see that come to the region is super encouraging. I think that the region needs more spaces like that, like large event spaces, and judging by their website, it sounds like they're going to chop that up a couple different ways, have smaller spaces available for people. They said like a whiskey garden, that'd be pretty sweet.
That's cool.
Like whiskey, so all around good.
Yeah, because in their Three Oaks location, they've got the distillery, they've got a restaurant, they've got a putting green, they've got a wedding space, they've got lodging, right? So it's not just a, hey, come and get some drinks. It seems to be like an experience, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot that you can do there, which is awesome. Journeyman Distillery in Valparaiso is an exciting next step for the Welter family, said Journeyman owner and operator Bill Welter. As a city, we recognize the potential of this property with its proximity to our historic downtown, said Mayor Matt Murphy, who was a member of the Valparaiso Redevelopment Commission in 2017 when the commission acquired the brownfield property that included the factory. I mean, just an incredible use of that building. That building has been vacant since the 1980s. So we're talking over 40 years, about 40 years, mid-1980s. So almost 40 years that thing's just been sitting there doing nothing.
Just an awesome building, just waiting for something like this to come around. I got a breakdown of the 3 event spaces that they're going to have. So the first one's the West Room. That is, it used to be the National Pin Company in 1873. And then in 1890, it was the Buttermilk Soap Factory, but they preserved the original masonry, windows, industrial beams to give just an awesome atmosphere in that. Looks over a 35-foot copper distillery, right in the name there. So that seems like that's just going to be an awesome space. The East Room, sorry, I'm messing up our audio here. The East Room is also got the original historic windows with panoramic views of the courtyard and water tower. That was a carriage and wagon factory in the 1880s. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then the Tower Gardens, it sits below a 130-foot tall water tower, natural greenery, native wildflowers. It looks like it's going to be like a wedding venue. And in 1862, it was home for another brewery, Corn and Junker Brewery in Valpo. The only pre-prohibition brewery at the time. That's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, the history of the building is awesome. When you look at the building and you see all the masonry, the huge windows, the water tower, it looks like something from the 1800s, right? Mm-hmm. I cannot freaking wait to see what they do. But what an amazing addition to Northwest Indiana. Yeah. And huge for Valparaiso. It's awesome.
Totally.
Right on par with what Valpo's been doing. Wish it was closer to where I live, because that's awesome. I mean, it's just such a cool thing to add to the area, man. It looks like they're starting to book events for fall and winter already for 2023 and 2024. So pretty cool, man. I mean, I can't wait to see what this looks like, what this is going to do. Just for credibility, right? Of like the credibility for places like Valpo and the region, but also, specifically for Valpo, the credibility to have a destination space like this for just, the location of it too. Like, if you live in Valpo, you can just, to experience that. Like, Three Oaks is pretty remote, right? It seems not like crazy remote, but it seems pretty remote, It seems like a pretty quiet area. My wife and I got married near that area. We drive around that area. We do some team stuff up in that space. Beautiful part of the Midwest, but not like it doesn't seem like it's a very busy area compared to like a Valpo. And I don't know too much about Three Oaks, but that's my intuition seems like. And then to throw that in an area like this, where it's not that Southwest Michigan is very destination based in a lot of ways. Like summertime, spring, summer, fall, that area is very, very busy, right? This is Valparaiso is an everyday place to live. You go to school, and I'm not saying that's not what happens in Three Oaks, but there's just a lot more destination that takes people there. Having this in an area like Valpo where people are here every day, living, working, taking kids to school, etc. Well, obviously with the college there too, it's huge, man. I think it's a huge addition to the area, and Journeyman they're right on brand for Valpo and Northwest Indiana. That's going to be sweet.
And then thinking back to the wedding I went to up there, shout out to the Gregorys for that. That was an awesome wedding. So the Gregorys are from South Bend, and pretty much everyone from their wedding was from either Indiana or from actually Colorado. But instead of booking a wedding venue in Indiana and all of the Indiana natives supporting Indiana businesses, we went up to Michigan, which was awesome. It was a great wedding, but this offers an opportunity for region residents and natives to celebrate in their area. Companies like realty executives to celebrate in Northwest Indiana. You got people coming from out of town, getting Airbnbs, getting hotels, eating at our restaurants, going to the Hard Rock, to have a good time.
Exactly.
Like, it just supports the overall economy.
It's going to be huge for the local economy over in Valpo, man. I don't know. I'm very excited to see it. I really hope we can get in there and get a video made for them, because I would love to just promote what they're doing. I think it's just such a massive. It's just such a massive addition to the area, And it's a place you go. It's just more stuff like this, man. Super cool. But how cool is that building? And that it's going to be crazy. Sick. It's going to be sweet.
You can't replicate that. Like you can try to make something look rustic and old, do the whole like farmhouse like Magnolia thing to it, but that just doesn't work. You can't fake it.
It's going to be sick.
It's going to be sweet, dude.
And personally, like I said, I haven't had any of their whiskeys, any of their drink. So I'm pumped. I'm pumped about it, man. They're looking forward to doing maybe client appreciation event there. Yeah. We had 400 plus people at our last client appreciation event. Yeah. Maybe doing our next region hustle. Maybe we could do there, right? Yeah. If we do a fall or winter version, right? It just gives us another option to take something to Porter County. So I'm excited about the use of that space and the point you just made. People coming here and staying at local lodging, local food, local, all that. It's going to support local. It's awesome. Sweet, man. Anything else on that?
No, I think we're good on that.
Done. No negative there, in my opinion. Next is going to be the redistricting of Crown Point schools. This is a big deal in Crown Point with the community growing so much. Just recently, or in the last couple of years, they've announced the brand new Taft school that's being built out in Winfield. Taft itself, the original Taft here on Main Street, definitely has had, it's outdated, it's older building, but now with the growing and expanding of the school district and Winfield and Center Townships, they announced the new building of Taft, and now that then changes all the redistricting, and which they've been working on now for a while. So the Crown Point School Corporation shared, redistricting and their approach behind this, and the three opportunities that they believe that it provides. One was a balanced enrollment at their elementary and middle schools to match changes in student population because it's growing, right? Two, align elementary schools so that each building serves students K through 5, has space for a preschool and similar facilities. And three, optimize the use of district resources. It's when you have an area that grows, you have to find ways to make positive change. I don't think there's any net negative to building a brand new $100+ million facility for our kids like Taft, right? So from that, people coming to an area where there's good schools, right? That's one of the main areas you hear about from anyone coming into Northwest Indiana, or if they live in Northwest Indiana, they say, we want our kids in Crown Point schools, right? Yeah. That's one of the top 2, 3 that you hear people say that for. So as far as districts. So nonetheless, changes have to be made, right? So they redistrict. This was a big deal to a lot of people. And already I'm seeing a lot of people talk about, the impact it's having. We have some clients who will, want to move from one district or from one elementary school district into another. So they're looking at those boundaries. So now we have people moving due to that because it is changing some people's lives, right? So that new boundary from going to Colonel Wheeler Middle School, that boundary is straight down Indiana 55, so straight down 9 Mile. So 9 Mile Road west is all going to go to Wheeler Middle School, or excuse me, Wheeler. Was technically the word. It's not an elementary school. It should be a middle school, and then to the east of that into Winfield is going to be everyone going to Taft. So if you were right in the middle, like the old boundary line, I believe used to be right on like Colorado or Green or Grand Avenue in Winfield, right off 109th. That used to be the cutoff line. I could be, don't quote me on that, but it's one of those streets off 109th. And now, I think it was Colorado. And now it's no longer that. Now it is at Indiana Avenue. So if you're right in the middle there, before you were going to be going to Wheeler schools, and now you're changing, right? Mm-hmm. So my wife's one of the cheer coaches in the district, and so like they have some kids who are coming back next year, some girls who are not. They're going over to the other. So it's kind of like this overlap. But the big deal, big changes for the city and for school districting. But overall, I mean, if you look at Wheeler Middle School, right, the two middle schools, you got Wheeler, which is like less than, I think it's like 10 years old. It's beautiful. It's a huge, beautiful, it looks like a college when you drive past, like a small college, a big high school, right? And then you look at what Taft is going to become, brand new, and something like, so we're going to have two basically brand new, essentially, schools for the 6th through 8th, right? That's huge, man. Plus, Crown Point High School itself, getting all the additions and changes. It's only like a 15, 20-year-old building as it is. Very nice building as it is. And now they're adding some state-of-the-art athletic facilities. Like if you haven't, I'm very excited to go see as they're finishing up, but the indoor turf space that they're putting in for athletes, and that space is insane. Like the resources that these kids have for public schools here in Crown Point now, they're all new, they're all high level. Obviously, athletics is one of the main focuses, and they've got an unbelievable public athletic facilities. But now you've got two brand new middle schools, a high school that's being even renovated more. A lot of the elementary schools are getting pretty major renovations, all of which are phenomenal schools. So yes, this does impact people who were going maybe to Eisenhower and now that's switched. That does stink, and those districts changing. But overall, I mean, it is going to be messy for a couple of years, probably maybe a year plus. But overall, I mean, this is a big news for the city and for everybody in the district. But clearly, I think that it is for the better. When you're growing like this, things have to change. Like my wife used to work at Winfield Elementary. They were busting out of the seams. They had classrooms that they had to start bringing trailers in so they could have classrooms in those trailers. They just went through a remodel, expansion. You've got to find ways to redistrict to where it makes sense to optimize the district, and it sounds like that's what they're doing. So anyway, that's kind of the story there. My thoughts, I guess. What, you got anything on that?
No, I think that you're right. I think it's good to make sure that you're spreading those resources across equally so they're optimized. But I do sympathize with the people who have kids in one school currently, and then the rezone or redistricting, moves into another school. I remember when I was little, I went to Tri Creek schools in Lowell, and we were actually moving, and a redistricting was going on within Tri Creek for the elementary schools. And I would talk to anybody that was near me, so it didn't bother to me. I was like, I'll just make new friends, It doesn't. But my sister was super introverted, and she was very nervous about it, and it really affected, especially my mom. I remember her being very stressed about it. So I can sympathize with that. How that could affect you if your kid is introverted or, they just have their routine. I totally get that. But looking at the bigger picture, it sounds like Crown Point is doing the best with what they have. And it's a good problem to have that they have phenomenal schools and everybody wants to go to their schools. There's not a bad school in the bunch. So I can see how it would be a pain in the butt, but it'll be all right. Yeah,
and if you look, they have a very nice website where you can actually take a look at the districting map. It's awesome. So it's very nice. We can link that up in the description on YouTube for anybody looking into that. But if you Google search, CPCSC, right, Crown Point Community School District, map, you'll find it, and
super easy to use.
It's very interactive. Yeah. You can separate from Taft to Wheeler. You can separate from each elementary school. You can see the whole. It's very nice. So very interactive. Highly recommend checking that out. So overall, I mean, we got a new superintendent about 2 years ago, and I would love to have him on the show. I think that would be a phenomenal episode. I know they're getting, where are we in March? So they've got, like 2 more months of school. Yeah. Maybe we could get him in sometime in the summer.
It's a busy season for him right now.
Yeah. Maybe we can get him in the summer. But I did get to listen to him once at the, he did a State of the City for the schools. The mayor does a State of the City every year, which is actually coming up, and we're getting a table for and sponsoring. There they talk about what's going on in the city. But I would love to have, I believe his name's Todd, but don't quote me on that, but I would love to have him on the show. I think that's something we should do, to talk about what their plan is, what their goal is, because since he's been here is the most change in my opinion, positive change we've seen. I went to that State of the City meeting, and they talked about how they didn't use a single dollar of tax fund money, like of taxpayer money, or have to bring new taxpayer money in. The district had so much money that they budgeted well, saved up, that they're doing $200 million in renovations and adding, where like very, very, very little came from anything outside of what they had just budgeted properly with, which is very interesting to me, because anything government related, you find government spending is usually coming from, we got to raise taxes, we got to do this. And he talked about, we just budgeted so well that they just had that money there. Like, it's phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, that, and just the vision of what he's got, I loved listening to him talk. So I'd love to hear more. Plus, I know he got a lot of, maybe he got some pushback on how they handled COVID with masks. Turns out he wasn't necessarily wrong, right? So I think that's something that's very interesting, and would love to talk to him on how that took a lot at that time early on to say, hey, your kids don't have to wear masks.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's more of a controversial topic. I think a lot of people make it. I don't think it necessarily needs to be. But I think that, overall, like what he's doing and what they're doing in their administration, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
But their leadership is doing seems to be good. So anyway, good?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Good segue with monetary policy.
Let's do it.
Government spending and how they handled COVID, right into interest rates.
Right into interest rates. So this is an Inman story. Fed Chair Jerome Powell's signals latest rate hike could be the last. So mortgage rates expected to ease even as Fed vows to continue quantitative tightening. It's trimming mortgage holdings. So they raised, basically the Federal Reserve policymakers approved what might be the final rate hike in their campaign to fight inflation Wednesday, raising the benchmark federal funds rate by 25 basis points to a target range of 4.75 to 5%. So what this means is, we've talked about this quite a bit, and if you're in the financial world, the raising of interest rates is them trying to slow down inflation, right? A lot of people are arguing they're trying to raise the unemployment rate. That's how they're trying to slow down the economy. The Fed is not saying that, but people think that by raising rates, right, they're trying to slow down what businesses and companies can afford, and ultimately some people might get out of work, slowing down the economy. But we've seen, in relation to the recent bank failures with Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, and Signature Bank, major controversies and conversations because of the raising of interest rates that has allowed some banks to have troubles. So they raised the Federal Reserve funds rate. Now, what does this mean? Now, for us, we're not going to speak necessarily on, all monetary policy. What we focus on is obviously real estate, right?
Yep.
So how does that affect us and our business? Mitch, what are you seeing out there right now with clients here in Northwest Indiana, where we specialize? How is the raising of rates affected maybe clients' decisions, purchasing power? What's that doing on the mortgage rate side? What are you seeing with your clients, and how are people reacting right now here in Northwest Indiana?
Yeah, so what I'm seeing with my clients right now, when I'm working with people that are trying to buy their primary residence, they're still trying to buy it. I'm still seeing multiple offer situations, still seeing homes selling quick within a week, sometimes even faster than that, depending on the area. An area like Crown Point, real, a lot of buyer demand here. Things are flying off the shelves still. When I'm working with investors, they are not getting the returns that they were previously looking for. Mm-hmm. So I think there has been a slowdown on that front. I think what Jerome Powell's trying to do is working. I think that it is slowing down, but when I think back to like the data that I look at from like 2008, Northwest Indiana doesn't generally respond in the same fashion as the national market. You look at areas that like Southern California and stuff like that, we're just in a totally different economic situation here in the region, kind of padded, kind of sheltered. So buyer demand is still there. It has cooled off a little bit, but I mean, I'm still seeing homes going over asking price and selling quick.
Very true. And the key to that is it's not, now that is happening, not nearly as bad as it was, right?
Yes, yeah, so that is true.
So it's not like, when we say that, we're not saying like, oh, it's just like it used
20,
to be.
30 grand over. No.
It's not like that. It's not different. Like that. I've had some properties do that, but it's not like that. I've had multiple listings this month that got multiple offers. I've had multiple clients have to go against other offers. It depends on, but here in Northwest Indiana, so we've talked about this too. Two different things. One, Northwest Indiana, like a lot of other markets and pockets of the country, are just different. right? It is a different area. It's different in the way that Northwest Indiana is being ran. We are not, we're not in an area where these rates, I think, are affecting us so much so that we're going to see the market slow down like crazy. We haven't seen that, right? We talked about this in multiple other episodes, how Northwest Indiana is going to, you can't listen to the headlines and say, that's what's going to happen in Northwest Indiana. It's just not. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to slow down. It doesn't mean that it hasn't slowed down. It has slowed down from 21 and 20 and a sum of 22. By the way, that is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. We could not sustain what was happening in those years, but we're not seeing what people are saying. Oh, the market's crashing. If you're waiting for the market to crash in Northwest Indiana, I don't know. You should not necessarily do that, in my opinion. I just don't see that happening. When things slow down in other markets, like Illinois, where are they going to go?
They're going to come here.
A lot of people are going to look to come here, which a lot of people still are.
Talked to a gentleman the other day that is looking to move to Northwest Indiana from Illinois, and without disclosing too much, he was telling me that his tax bill in Illinois would be almost as much as what his mortgage payment would be here.
Makes sense.
Granted, he is downsizing, but I mean, that's just crazy.
And so when things do really slow down, right, if that's what happens, the problem is going to be people in Illinois having to sell their homes in Illinois, right? That might be where they lose some of their value, because a lot of people are going to be looking to move from there to here. In Northwest Indiana, our problem is still trying to find people the right properties, even at high budget, like high price points. Like I've got clients looking up to $1.5 million right now who can't find the house that they're looking for. I mean, when you think about that budget, you should be able to find whatever you want. I have other clients looking $500,000-$600,000. They're like, we just don't see anything we like. I don't see that slowing down in this area, because if things go bad, the problem is not going to be people wanting to buy and sell here. The problem is going to be people needing to sell in Illinois. Yeah. Right? That's going to be the problem. Good news is most people have a lot of equity, so they can take a loss from what they would have sold in maybe 21 to now. The other part of this is this. The Fed raised the rates by 25 basis points. What happened to mortgage rates?
They didn't go up.
They went down.
0.25%. Yeah.
Mortgage rates went down. So 21 days ago, mortgage rates were at 7% for a 30-year fix. Today, it's 6.38.
Yeah. So
we're down almost, over 0.5% in interest rate, 62 basis points. So we're down, coming up on 0.75% in interest rates, when before the Fed rate was higher, but interest rates were at 7%. Now the Fed rate's even higher, and mortgage interest rates are lower. And we've talked about this before. That's because you need to pay attention to the 10-year Treasury, okay? Mortgage rates are not determined by the Fed funds rate. Historically, they're mostly determined by the 10-year Treasury, right? And there's a spread between those two. The 10-year Treasury right now is 3.35%. So it's at 3.35, and mortgage rates are at 3.38. So there's about a 300 basis point spread there. What experts are saying, many experts are saying, that we're going to see interest rates ease off, right? There's a chart here we can share with you through Inman Connect and through this particular article, that we're going to see them ease off the middle of this year, Q3 of this year, maybe in the high and mid fives, probably high fives, right? Which is a very healthy rate.
Super healthy.
And by Q4 of 24, they're saying we should be in the low fives. If we're in the mid fives, that is such a healthy place to be, interest rate wise. I think it's going to be a very good spot, in my opinion. And just listen to the experts. Barry Habib's of the world. That's probably the main guy to listen to is Barry Habib. But Fed funds rate went up. Interest rate went down. Mortgage rates went down. A little bit. Not a lot, but they went down a little bit. So pay attention to that, right? Pay attention to that. And if that keeps happening, I promise you the buyer demand here is going to continue to go up.
Absolutely.
So don't hold your breath on trying to are there good deals out there? Yeah. The problem is when people overlist. That's where I'm seeing good deals. People overprice their property. It sits. Buyers come in. They use the mortgage rate excuse. It's been sitting days on market. No one cares, and all of a sudden you get a good deal. Don't overprice your property. If you're selling, you're going to fail. You need to price it properly, and that's when you'll get. I could name 4 different scenarios in this month of listings that I have. We priced it to sell, multiple offers. Priced it to sell, multiple offers. Right? Yep. So just price it properly.
Yeah, just to go back to what you're saying about lack of inventory and people having a hard time finding homes, I want to put in perspective for folks, because you don't hear this on, the major news networks and stuff like that. what's going on in a lot of people's households is they have an interest rate below 3%, at 3%, 3.5%, maybe even 4%, and they're not going to trade that for the current mortgage rates.
Exactly.
If they don't absolutely need to move, they're not going to move. So they're not going to list their home, and that home's not going to be available on the market. And it just basically it's like somebody keeping their thumb in the hose and cutting off the supply a little bit and just keeping prices high. It's keeping prices stable. And
I feel like stable is
a better word there. And I misspoke a little bit there, but it's a totally different atmosphere than it's being projected on the national scale because it's not that many people need to sell their home.
I think right now, if we look at it from this way, consider this, right? If the average annual appreciation of home values for 100 plus years was 3.6% year over year, if we did, in Northwest Indiana, we did about 11% from 2021 to 2022, 2023. So roughly 30% was done in 3 years. So the average home added, let's just call it for easy numbers, 30% appreciation in 3 years' time. That traditionally would have taken you about 10 years to get. So even if we got 10 years of appreciation done in 3, even if housing values stay stable for 7 more years, we're at where we should be.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So in Northwest Indiana, if you're not seeing housing values, shoot down, you're probably not going to see that. You're probably not going to see them shoot up either. The stable word is very correct. And I feel like if it stays stable, we got 7 more years for prices to stay the same, and we're where we should have been.
We're still on track.
So keep that in mind. That Northwest Indiana, I don't think you're going to see that happen in like what's happening in some other markets. That's my feedback. And Chicago is not doing much better. And young families, I talked to so many young families, man. And speaking of which, like we're going to go into Refuge Coffee, but that was a story of them. I talked to the owner on that, and there's the same story of someone just like that. Young family, got out of Chicago, and we'll touch on them here in a minute. But there's a lot of people like that who are leaving that, and they're having children, they're having kids, and they need a place with good schools, safe, things to do, nice place to live, affordable. The region is that spot.
Absolutely.
Let's finish off going in that segue right into Refuge Coffee. So we want to shout out Refuge Coffee here on Main Street. They took over the old Pops building. So if you guys are familiar with the old Pops building, 1150 North Main Street, that building sat vacant for a long time. I know a lot of people who were trying to buy that building and never worked out. And I want to shout out the owner and his family, Hotam, him and his family, his wife and their 4 kids. Their story was cool. I was asking them, hey, what brought you to Crown Point? And I know that they're very involved with Livingstone's Church. They have Refuge Coffee in Livingstone's Church as well. And so they're from Chicago, and they had a bagel business there. They sold their bagel business. They sold their condo, and then they opened the coffee shop here in the area and moved to this area. They got 4 kids, great local business owners, young family. Really cool to see that. I mean, I love seeing this stuff coming to the area. But their mission at Refuge Coffee is to serve, craft, and lead. They serve people by making everything about them and not about profit. Their products have become a craft, something that they hone and treat as a gift to people that they serve. So they've got phenomenal bagels, sandwiches, everything in between. It's really good stuff. And one of their slogans is where Refuge Coffee is where genuine is greater than counterfeit, which I think is super cool. Very faith-based, faith-focused coffee shop. Phenomenal coffee. Highly recommend them. Go check them out. Great food, great bagels. But that's a great example of somebody who took what they had in that area in Chicago and brought something amazing right here in Crown Point in Northwest Indiana and opened a brand new local business. They just had their grand opening with Mayor Land yesterday, ribbon cutting yesterday. So super cool. Congratulations to them. Welcome to Crown Point. Welcome to the area. Amazing. Another addition. Crown Point has so many great coffee places. It's ridiculous. You got Refuge, Small Town, Steam Whistle, Sip, Cafe Fresco, a Fluid. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
And all locally owned. Like if you go to Starbucks, unless the Starbucks, and I don't know if this is a fact, but unless the Starbucks in the area are owned by local franchisees, if not, you should go to one of the local spots.
Yeah.
Support somebody that's local, man, because their coffee, not only is it significantly better, keep it here. right? Keep it here. All these great Crown Point business owners and people in the area. So we literally are so spoiled with coffee. It's crazy.
Yeah, I love to see people coming from Illinois, coming here, opening businesses, good people, just feeding into the local economy. It's great, man. It's awesome.
It's awesome. That was a good show.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. Episode 27. Tomorrow, Noah is 23.
Happy birthday,
Boom.
buddy.
Happy birthday, brother.
They grow up so fast.
We got 17 new babies on the way in the team, so this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
We're in the process of doubling the size of the Nickla Group.
We're going to have to get a nursery. Put it
Side
next door.
is ready for that, I'm for sure.
Put it next door. Bunch of cribs.
Thank you guys for watching. If you got any recommendations on any stories, any new businesses, anyone you recommend we should talk to, anyone you think would be good for the show, let us know. Like, comment, subscribe, anything that you can to share this. We truly appreciate it. I've been getting a lot of people that are coming up to me and saying, hey, I listened to your... I went to a listing appointment the other day and opened the door, and guy, his name's Tim. Tim goes, is it really you? Is it really you? I'm like, stop it, Tim. Like, there's 5 people who watch our show. Like, he was like acting like I was famous, like jokingly, but also like, I was like, Tim, stop.
That's funny.
But thank you for watching. He talked about how much he appreciated what we're doing. So if you guys could share this, really appreciate that. Anything else you think is valuable for us to discuss, share, talk about, anyone to bring on. But thank you very much. We appreciate the support. Love
Thanks
y'all.
a lot.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.